March 30th, 2022, Anthony. We're going across the world today. What do you think about that?
Aloha. I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey everybody, welcome to No Vacancy Live. I'm Glenn Hausman. That's Anthony Melchiori. Anthony, your energy today is infectious. I'm blown away. I hope I could keep up.
What? Why do my lips look purple? Do my lips look purple?
I don't know, but they are so kissable. Let me tell you. All right, Anthony, I'm so excited to see you here today. I'm excited to be here today because we're going to be doing a fun show today here in episode 609 at No Vacancy Live. I can't believe how the numbers keep adding up day after day after day. But listen, today we're going to be speaking to a couple of different people. One's in Dubai, one's in Hawaii, we're in New York. How cool is that, dude?
That is really cool. Can I talk about my Boston trip real quick?
Yes, but we don't want to keep a guest who's super late at night and someone super early in the morning.
I was at the Intercontinental Boston. If you haven't been, go. Beautiful hotel, beautiful service, beautiful staff. The Encore Hotel in Boston. If you haven't been, go. It's beautiful. Thank you and good night.
Yeah, and I will say, hey, Rosie Salisbury, who runs PR over at Encore, I sent you a note today. Let's talk. I want to get us over there.
Or as they say in Brooklyn.
Right. Hey, yeah, how you doing? All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is the continued growth of an organization we love, the Global Hotel Alliance. And to do that, we've got the CEO, Mr. Chris Hartley, and of course, one of the member hotels. And I love this guy, Jeff Wagoner, President CEO, Outrigger Hospitality Group out of Hawaii. So cool. We got Dubai over there. We got Hawaii over here. So great to see you guys. Welcome to our global show.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having us, Glenn and Anthony. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
Chris, welcome back. It's great to see you, sir.
Thank you. Great to be back as well. I feel that my dark background reflects a late night here in Dubai, and you're looking a lot brighter over there.
So, Glenn, what time is it? Quiz. What time is it in Dubai and what time is it in Hawaii?
I'm going to guess, 6 a.m. in Hawaii. I'm going to say 10 p.m., Chris? Is that?
No, we're actually only 8 p.m. So
you're only 8 hours ahead of us. Oh, so it's early over there. All right, forget about it. So, Chris, the last time you were here, we were talking. It's got to be a year ago or so. So, why don't you tell us a little bit, just to get us oriented, exactly what you folks are all about at the Global Hotel Alliance, so we could ground people in understanding where the conversation's going to go.
Great. Yeah. Well, I guess we, like everyone across hospitality, are coming out of a pretty terrible 2 years. The Alliance itself has continued to grow despite the pandemic. And we've had some changes in our brands over the last couple of years, but we're excited to be able to integrate fully on board the Alliance at the beginning of this year, Sun International in South Africa, our first brand in South Africa. So that was our 35th brand joining the Alliance. And in a couple of months, 1st of April coming up, so 2 months away now, 1st of June, we will be welcoming our biggest brand yet, NH Hotels, with 370 new hotels joining the Alliance. So we will actually be having our they have 3 brands, so it'll be our 36, 37, 38 brands joining, and we will grow from what we are today, around 500 hotels, to over 800 hotels. So yeah, pretty exciting year ahead, and we're hoping that coincides with continued recovery in revenues across all of our brands, and we're seeing that especially in resort hotels. Leisure demand is great, and I'm sure Jeff will reflect that in what you're seeing happening over in Hawaii and your new resorts in Thailand as well.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So again, the Global Hotel Alliance is a grouping of all these different independent brands that are helping to promote one another, have a rewards program, all to get the benefits of partnering up. Anthony, we've seen other companies here in the United States doing it, but I love that this is spread across the globe. Jeff, you've been with Outrigger now 5 years? 4 years now. All right. I figured it was 3 or 4, so I overestimated because I'm getting so old over here. What is it that you tell us a little bit about Outrigger for folks that don't know, since you are located Hawaii, Maldives, Thailand, all of those kind of places, and what it is that you like about being a member of the Global Hotel Alliance?
Yeah, so the company is 32 properties, and so 26 of those properties are here in Hawaii, and then we have 6 international destinations as well. One of the really interesting things that I've seen related to loyalty is redemption. And when you look at the pandemic, and when you're in a resort or a lot of these leisure destinations, there is a lot of points and redemption opportunities that individuals or traditional travelers have out there. So as we've seen a surge of business come into some of these markets, a lot of it is redemptions. So for us, being able to be in an aggregate loyalty program with 35 different hotel companies with the scale and size that you're able to do when you are a smaller company is very, very meaningful from a business perspective. And Chris will probably talk about this in a little bit, but there's been a modification and a change to the Global Hotel Alliance and the Discovery program that has included, in essence, the ability to have a very similar redemption program to what other hotel companies have. So we're excited to be a part of Discovery and the Global Hotel Alliance. We've been a part of it now for several years, and we look forward to the modifications that have been done to the program to even make it more successful.
That's interesting. Chris, because typically I think about Hawaii being that place where everybody wants to go redeem their points. So it's interesting to say that a CEO of a Hawaiian company actually loves all of that, because usually that's like too much redemption. What is it that makes it appealing to not only get guests coming to redeem things, but also participate in allowing Outrigger guests to go elsewhere to enjoy their points?
I think the key difference that we've created with the new program is, firstly, we don't have a point system. It's a currency system. So we've actually created a digital currency called Discovery Dollars. Discovery Dollars is a common currency to all of our brands. So all of our brands issue the Discovery Dollar currency. They can also market it themselves, and they can stimulate their own customers by promoting it. They also accept that Discovery Dollar currency as payment. But the difference is you don't actually need to save up for a free night. So what we're actually seeing already, and we only launched the program back in December, is that, and we've got 60 million Discovery Dollars out there already. So it's a great way to get people to start traveling again, is actually to put some dollars in their pockets. So a Discovery Dollar equals $1 US. It's instantly convertible at spot rate into any other currency in the world. You don't have to save up for a free room. So if I turn up, which I'd love to do it, one of Jeff's resorts in Hawaii, and I've got, as I do at the moment, I think about 300 Discovery Dollars on my account. I do actually spend real money on our hotels as well, so I earn Discovery Dollars. I can, for example, spend $5,000 in Hawaii. At the end of my stay, I can cash in 300 of those Discovery Dollars. Now, if there's any chance that my stay in Outrigger was influenced by me having 300 Discovery Dollars, then that hotel is still getting $4,700 in cash. It's going to be a direct booking because I have to book direct in order to use my Discovery Dollars. And the hotel will also get a part payment on those Discovery Dollars. So if you think about it like that, I haven't actually got a free $5,000 booking, as people might in the Bonvoy or other programs save up and then cash in all of those points in one go. But I actually may use that currency as a part payment for one of my stays. And I think that's appealing to hotels and hotel owners, because it doesn't, if you're in a leisure destination like Hawaii, it doesn't just see people using all of these points to get as many free nights as possible.
I like that. I like that philosophy. And for those of folks that don't understand, beyond Outrigger and the brands that we've already talked about, we're talking about brands such as Kempinski Hotels, the Leela, Nikki Beach, Pan Pacific, Viceroy Hotels. We got friends over there, Lungarno Collection. So these are brands that a lot of us already know that are finding the power of getting together in a group. But Jeff, what's interesting to me is it's not just getting guests to come. I think that there's a brain trust that you could all tap into, kind of create a community amongst all these independent brands, so you don't feel like you're going at it alone, even though you are going at it alone. Is that correct?
Yeah, it really is, Glenn. And first off, I'm looking forward to Chris's visit. I need that $4,700, Chris. So when you're ready to come visit, but
that's before my discount.
It really is. When Chris puts on a quarterly meeting with all the CEOs from the companies, the 35 different companies.
Yep.
And the ability to share what's happening or what happened in the pandemic, for example, and when business is coming back, and when we saw different regions of the world starting to take reservations again or release restrictions, whatever it may be, there was significant intel and information that we were able to learn about and to see that helped us globally to be able to understand the pandemic and how we would come out of that. So Chris and the team have really done a nice job to bring us all together on a regular basis and make sure that we're able to share what we can share. Obviously, there are things that you can't in our industry in this type of a situation, but things that we could share to be able to make sure that we could lean on each other or support each other in ways that we could to be able to drive business or help us not only in the redemption piece or to be able to have discovery dollars, but how do we understand the markets that are out there and what's going to happen over the course of time?
Yeah, and how does it help you level up against the bigger brands like the Hiltons, the Marriotts, and the brands that most people know all those brands? Some people know the brands that we're talking about. Some people don't. They're not as big. So how does that help you level up?
When you think about it, Anthony, there's a pretty massive database here. And a lot of these loyalty programs exist to be able to communicate to the consumer. So if I was only able to communicate to the Outrigger consumer, it would be my 32 hotels and the individuals that stay here. Chris has the ability to have everybody that's in the Discovery program and be able to communicate to them and to be able to message at kind of the umbrella level that Chris has what's happening across the globe, not just at Outrigger, but at Kempinski or Pan Pacific or the other brands that are out there. It really is meaningful and helpful to us. We all know how important digital marketing is today, and to be able to have that kind of a database available to us with the number of consumers that are in the entire Global Hotel Alliance and Discovery in general is very, very meaningful to our company.
And Chris, how important is it to have the same level of hotel? I mean, if you have a 2.5, 3-star hotel or 5-star hotel, can you come in the program? Like, what are the parameters?
Well, we've generally got upscale and luxury brands. And I think actually I would argue that our collection of 35 brands is some of the more richer brands that you can find. As a couple of you have said, the brands are maybe not so well known. They're smaller. They're well known in local markets, but maybe not internationally. But what they are is very high-end brands generally. That doesn't mean that we can't welcome brands that have mid-scale products. NH joining later this year has a range of brands from 5-star luxury with their NH collection products to some mid-scale and upscale hotels across urban locations across Spain and Italy and Germany, for example. And what we find is a lot of the customers will scale up. I mean, my comment recently to our member brands has been, you have to look at the different spend levels across the customer base. And at the moment, what we're seeing is spend at the moment, for example, in China is very strong domestically. The average spend in China is around $250 for a stay. Our best performing market at the moment is the Maldives. And the Maldives, our average customer spend year to date in Q1 is $9,000 per stay. So, and you're seeing customers that are coming from databases that are being collected by hotels that are operating in the mid-market or the upscale market. But these customers are going away with their families and then spending $9,500 to $10,000 on average for a stay in the Maldives. So I always say about data is don't try and second guess what a customer wants to do. That's what data science is all about. That's what collecting all of this information about people's people spend, what they spend money on, where they stay, where they travel to, helps you to intuitively target customers in a way that ensures that you get people moving to the destinations you want them to. And that often is very different what you imagine the data is likely to deliver when you collect it. So it's a discussion we have a lot with our brands is collect the data and we'll figure out how to get those customers to come and stay in your hotels.
Yeah, I like exactly what you're saying. So based on what Chris is saying, Jeff, how are you seeing things change in flux, right? And I'm kind of thinking about over the last 2 years how our travel patterns have changed. Sometimes because we want them to, sometimes out of necessity. For example, in the United States, we used to love having that international traveler come over because they spend more, they stay longer, but in the last year, the United States has benefited from Americans traveling in America and not going overseas, and we haven't seen the business over here. So how are things kind of changing for you and adjusting, and how does your role in GHA affect all of that?
You know, when you think about all the different locations across the globe, you know, we're very, you know, US centric, a lot of us are. And there was this whole discussion about drive-to markets and how quickly all these drive-to markets came back. And when you think about other destinations like Thailand and some of the other big countries that are out there, they in essence have drive-to markets as well within each one of those locations. But then you've got others like French Polynesia, or you've got the Maldives that they don't have a drive-to market. They have a seaplane to market. And so it's a little bit of a different environment. But it's really interesting how they have all recovered as well. And you just mentioned the Maldives a couple of minutes ago. It probably was the location in the world that recovered faster than anywhere else. I think the ADR between the French Polynesia, the Maldives, and even Maui here is probably the highest in the world. Wow. And so to see that kind of a recovery happen in those locations in very different environments where you can't drive to the Maldives, but you can in certain locations in the US, I think it's been pretty unique. And what I love about it is that it took creative marketing and messaging to make that happen in all of these different locations, whether it came from the brand or whether it came from the loyalty program from the brands, similar to what we have the ability to do with GHA. That's where these things really become meaningful when you want to pivot from one geo source to another geo source, or a different type of business that you haven't done in the past, but you know is traveling to your market. Then how do you do that? And you know, we all want to think through the marketing strategies and so forth, but one of the key elements of that is always the database of your loyalty program and how you can communicate to that.
Right. Fascinating. Anthony, did you want to follow up on that?
No, it seems fascinating and complicated. So, so what's going on with the world events and how's that affecting Hawaii? I mean, a lot are you seeing an uptick because people are deciding not to go to Europe?
You know, there is a little bit of that, Anthony, but I think it's been interesting because when you look at what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia situation, Russia has been a big geo source for a lot of locations, a lot of resort destinations. When you look at Thailand and Phuket or the Maldives. And so, you know, that is changing right now. Things are pivoting a little bit, but it's really, to me, been very fascinating to see other geo sources jump into these markets when there may be one other source that goes away. It happened a while back from a China perspective in Thailand back in 2018. And then very quickly after, Russia became probably the #1 geo source into the Thailand market. And now that's changing as well, and we're having to pivot. You see India come into the Maldives in a really big way over the course of the pandemic. So it's these new geo sources, they're not even new geo sources. I wanted to stay closer to home. I wanted to travel into a location that wasn't quite as far as I've traveled in the past. And they went to destinations that they hadn't necessarily been to. So I think that even though we've got these events occurring in the world, the industry has been pretty resilient in a lot of these locations to stay successful.
That's interesting. And Chris, I want to follow up with you on that. If you could frame it in this way, I'm curious as if to any destinations are actually doing much better than previous, or are we really just talking about a reshuffling of customers? So everyone's kind of going to different hotels, but in the same numbers.
I mean, clearly at the moment we're still in recovery mode, so volumes are generally still lower in most markets. That's not true everywhere. I touched on the Maldives. We've been talking about the resurgence in demand for leisure travel. But to Jeff's point, there's some really interesting shifting of business, even when people can't travel. And I think a brilliant example of that is a market that would never typically be thought of as having a domestic traveler, and that's Singapore. I mean, Singapore, you can basically drive around in an hour or so from one end to the other. And yet, during the pandemic, when Singaporeans couldn't travel, some of our hotels there have been performing better than ever. And at the most luxury level of the market, for example, the Capella in Sentosa, those of you know Singapore, the Capella is probably the most beautiful hotel in the country. And the famous location for the summit between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. You remember that first interesting North Korean summit. But that hotel has done amazingly well. In fact, the CEO was commenting on one of our calls recently. For that hotel alone, he's not looking forward necessarily to Singapore opening up again because it's become in such high demand for Singaporeans. But it just goes to show that you can't keep a good traveler locked down for too long. They're going to find a way of having a travel experience of some sort. And to Jeff's point, it's also about the drive-to market, of course, in mainland US, that has become very popular. But also we've seen domestic China in resorts like Sanya doing extremely well, as the Chinese, unfortunately, have not been going to the Maldives, have not been going to Thailand, but they've been going to their own resorts in places like Hainan Island. So we've just seen to a certain extent where people could continue to travel, a shift in the way people have been moving around. But sadly, of course, there are many locations that have been completely locked down. Hong Kong's an example of a market where, once everyone had done one or two staycations in Hong Kong, it was like, there's only so many you're going to do, right? And at that point, we've seen occupancies that have been very sadly depressed for an extended period of time now. But yeah, it's interesting. People want to travel, and everyone talks about this rebound coming. But and some people have said people won't travel in the same way in the future again. I think that's wrong. I just think people are waiting to find where they're going to go to, how they're going to get there. They obviously want seamless travel. No one likes to be stuck in a queue and checking for an hour, having some vaccine passport QR code checked. But I think that's changing. You can feel that countries have realized, whereas they all competitively locked down, they're not to sort of show how serious they were being about COVID. Now everyone's like desperate to show that they're now loosening everything up. And
that's why you're going to drop the mask mandate on airplanes and trains, in my opinion, here in the United States.
I use the example of kids from high school going to college. It's like everybody is like revenge vacation, right? It's like we're all just leaving and we're going to college. We don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're just going. And I think that's kind of like, it's a freshman in college kind of mentality for the traveler. Are you starting to see the same challenges that we're having here in the continental US? Are you seeing, from a labor standpoint, in Hawaii and in other destinations, the same kind of concerns and problems?
When you look at Hawaii in general, not quite as much. The wage rate here in Hawaii, when you think about what happened over the course of the U.S. mainland and the U.S. in general, is the equivalency of the unemployment was in the $17 to $18 range when you talked about, all the different subsidies from an unemployment perspective and so forth. In Hawaii, that wage is well over $20 for most positions. And therefore, when we had or asked people to come back, we went out and started saying, okay, we've got occupancy coming back. Do you want to come back to work? Anthony, we did not have one person tell us they didn't want to come back to work. Every single person came back to work. It was amazing. And so, we didn't have the same issue. Now, we did in some of the food and beverage and retail environments that we were in. because the wage, it was a different, it's a tipped wage and it's just a different environment. So
Right.
it wasn't that bad in Hawaii. Internationally, we didn't see it in a bad way either, because there's different pay environments, monthly pay. There was subsidies by the government in a lot of different locations as well. So we haven't seen as much of it. But clearly, when you hear what's happened in the U.S. mainland, it's been very difficult. And hopefully we're able to get back to where everybody wants to come back to work, and we're able to have enough people that are interested in our industry to come back into hospitality.
Wow. That's pretty encouraging there. Chris, how are you seeing it with some of your member hotels around the world?
It varies enormously, but the message is pretty similar, especially in Europe. It's been a struggle. The well-documented troubles created by Brexit. As a Brit, I better not comment on that one, especially as an expat Brit. But I know that my compatriots in London are really struggling to find people after many hotels in London were closed down for extended periods of time. They've lost people permanently. I mean, people that had lived in the European Union and didn't feel really welcome, should we say, or it wasn't going to be easy to remain in the UK. So that's a market that's really struggling. But also across France and Germany, where salaries for service staff in particular, Jeff was saying restaurants, food and beverage, that's been a real struggle across swathes of Europe as well, is to find people to get back into restaurants. And the result of that is that you've got a lot of hotels in Europe that are struggling to reopen fully and provide full service. That's a worry. I mean, it's especially a worry when you hear hotels talking about them needing to manage the reopening process, even though demand to a certain extent is exceeding their ability to be able to serve that demand. And that's sad, after 2 years of such low occupancies and all the traumas we've been through with the pandemic, to not be able to fully reopen hotels properly because of a lack of staff is really sad. So I'd say Europe in particular, but I know that stretches across the world into other markets as well. We're fortunate in places like Dubai, where they've actually made it much easier to get visas and to recruit people in the UAE. And so and the hotels have also been performing extremely well. Rates are high. But it's a mixed picture, but it's not easy out there. I know our CEOs have been sharing that, as Jeff was saying. We have these quarterly calls, and they've been sharing similar problems in terms of labor market shortages pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing how everybody's rethinking, regrouping, reinventing themselves in a lot of ways. But Chris, being that you're in Dubai and tomorrow's the last day of Dubai World Expo, how's it been going over there? I'm curious as to what a new version of a World's Fair is kind of like right now.
It's been amazing. Dubai has been buzzing. You can't get a seat in a good restaurant in Dubai. You can't get a taxi in Dubai. I think the expo almost happened at the perfect time for Dubai, having been postponed for a year. Yeah. They were able to open the expo on the 1st of October, just when we went into that pre-Omicron recovery, when we thought that was it. We were all free of COVID. There was a blip over Christmas and New Year when I think everyone got a little bit worried. Case numbers were up. Right. But again, the UAE's been great the way they've managed the COVID pandemic by keeping a sense of freedom, kept the country open. They've used a common sense approach to COVID, in that we're a young population. I'm probably the oldest person in the country, which means either but there isn't really an old population. So they took a very pragmatic approach to it. People weren't getting sick. People weren't going to hospitals. So let's keep the country open, keep Expo open. And everyone's wanting to be coming on a holiday to Dubai. And I think it's not so much that the Expo has drawn huge amounts of people specifically for the Expo. I think people want to come to Dubai. People have wanted to come to the UAE. People have wanted to come on vacation. And the Expo is another reason to come. And they've turned it into much more than what I always felt an Expo was, you say, like a world fair. It's become a sort of entertainment center in the city. There are great chefs being brought in to do specialty evenings. There's been concerts.
Yeah, I think I saw Wolfgang Puck was over there a couple of weeks ago or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty. That's really interesting. I'm just amazed that they put that stunt woman on top of the Burj Al Khalifa and they had an 380 fly by. That is just like the craziest thing I've seen. Reminds me of when Steve Wynn would sit on the top of his building.
I was waiting for you to say that. And he was, unfortunately, he was basically blind when he was doing it.
That's insane. I can't believe that.
Well, the behind the scenes, because I knew somebody that was up on the roof with him. He was harnessed in pretty tight.
Yeah. All right. So, Jeff, I got a question for you in terms of, air supply and stuff like that. You guys are out there and, the most remote island chain in the universe. You really depend on airlines. We speak to the guys in the Caribbean and stuff. They're always concerned about that. While it may not be as much of a concern for Hawaii because there are so many flights, my hunch is there's still a lot fewer flights available. And if so, how is that really affecting things for you? And how dependent are you on Delta?
And before you answer that question, how many hit songs did Air Supply have?
Oh gosh, I don't know, but a lot. And so, but I have to tell you that when you look at flights, there are different dynamics in different islands here in Hawaii, for example. So on Oahu, 50% of the travel coming to Oahu is international. So from Japan or Korea or other Australia, different locations, Canada. And so when all of that is shut down, Oahu really suffered the most.
Right.
When you look at the neighbor islands, you look at Maui and Kauai and the Big Island, they came back really strong and very, very quickly because they're very U.S. mainland dominant. The other thing is Hawaii is probably one of the safest places on the planet. There was a lot of restrictions put in place here. They've all been released now, which is fantastic. So you can travel here without a test, without vaccination, and no masks anymore here as well, which is awesome, effective about a week ago. So what happened, though, was that when you look at Hawaiian Airlines and Southwest and United, Delta, American, a lot of these airlines put new flights into Hawaii. There was about 135 or 35% more flights coming into Hawaii over the last several months than there was when 2019 occurred. So a lot more flights. You see Southwest come into the market. They've added, the different airlines have added now Phoenix, Orlando. We've got flights from Boston. We've got Long Beach. We've got San Jose now, Orange County.
Long Beach? That's cool.
Yeah. All destinations are all locations that were not flying here before. Now, some of those are just, a traveler who picked a different airport this time, same traveler.
Yeah, right.
But there's also new destinations when you get somebody like Southwest that comes into the market. So it's been really healthy for us to be able to have that additional flights coming into Hawaii. We look forward to those staying for the most part. We don't think it was just we've got extra airplanes, let's go ahead and fly them to Hawaii. We think these are destinations that will stick and we'll have a new traveler coming to Hawaii in the future.
Anthony, you're on mute. And while we're at it, just saying go on. Sorry.
Hawaii's cool again. Hawaii wasn't cool for a while for some reason, and it's on everybody's lips again. When I was growing up, everybody was going to Hawaii and Disney World. Now it seems like everybody's going to Hawaii and Disney World.
Anthony,
French Polynesia, we just thought that was in Disney World. We didn't know that was a real place.
One of the things that happened during the pandemic too, which I love, is that a lot of the Hawaii hotels renovated. Everybody kept their projects going. So you've got, the Sheraton's renovated here. You've got the Halakalani put $100 million in. We renovated 2 properties and put over $100 million into these properties. We've got 2 more that we're going to renovate. The one behind me on the screen, we're spending about 45 to 50 million in. We're starting that renovation in a couple weeks. So it was really nice to see that the market continued to go upscale and improve our properties, because I think your point's right. Hawaii is a destination that people are just itching to come to right now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Hawaii is just always a good, safe, comfortable choice. And Jeff, I've been to Hawaii a few times, but the first time I went there was for my wedding anniversary, coming up on 20 years now. So I was planning that right after 9/11. I was thinking of going to some Tahiti or Fiji or something like that, but we felt, oh, it's United States, it's safe, we should do that, and we've been hooked ever since. You know.
Come on back, man. Anytime, you're welcome back.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that because we want to do some live
Jeff,
broadcasts
we're
with you.
coming to your hotel. You have one in Maui?
We'll find something for you in Maui. We have a beautiful, the Hanuakai Resort in Maui. Love to have you there.
We plan on doing our podcast in Hawaii in July. So we'll see in July. But in all that capital that's going into these projects, how much is the percentage going into technology? A bigger percentage than would have been 10 years ago? Where are you as far as technology?
Then after Jeff, Chris, if you could give a perspective how you see all of that going as well amongst your hotels. Jeff?
Yeah, so we are seeing a lot go into technology. Things are changing, Anthony. You see the industry evolve, and when you look at being able to swipe on your phone and cast something onto the screen with a Sonify, for example, when you look at messaging to the consumer, when you can text message via Zingle. I'm not trying to do a commercial for any of these guys, but you can text message via Zingle to the consumer now to say, hey, here's an offer for you. You're staying in the hotel. If you want to stay 3 more nights, here's a rate that we can offer you. When you look at checking the mobile check-in environment, we've all heard about this now for 2 years. And one of the things that we did very quickly, we went out and said, okay, we've got to pivot to contactless check-in. How do we do that? So I said, okay, what other hotels have a kiosk in their lobby in the resorts in Hawaii? Zero. None.
I'm already thinking, because Hawaii is more of a high touch environment. You're not getting the average business traveler who wants to get left alone like me.
Exactly. So we skipped over kiosks. We went right to mobile check-in, and we said, we're not even going to go down the kiosk route. So technology has become a big part of this. And I think it's going to continue to evolve. I really do. We're putting in Opera Cloud right now. So we're migrating our 3 new properties in Thailand. All are doing Opera Cloud. We're going to migrate the entire company to the cloud at some point here soon. And so I think we're starting to see more happen from a technology perspective that we're going to be able to adopt into the future for sure.
Yeah, and nobody likes kiosk. It never worked. It never worked right. I just talked about it on I did a speech yesterday. And I was like, no one liked kiosks. I mean,
I have one exception to that. When you're at a major Las Vegas casino resort and that line, it looks like it's
but a lot of it don't work efficiently. It's not like the kiosk at the airport. The kiosk at the airport works. The kiosk hotels just don't work most of the time.
Yeah, I remember doing a check-in to a room at a mid-strip resort, and it took like 15 minutes, and all the things, it was ridiculous. So, Chris, how are your member hotels thinking about technology, and how are you guys utilizing technology to further integrate everybody?
And is there a standard technology to be in your
great
organization?
So and there is, and actually touching what Jeff was just saying about upgrading to Opera Cloud, we actually, from day one, we created the alliance. We brought in a technology partner as a shareholder. Originally Micros Fidelio, who had created Opera, now Oracle. So we actually have Oracle as a shareholder in the business. They sit on our board. Jeff will know from our CEO calls that they present to us and give us the latest of all that's happening in the world of technology. But it's not just about Oracle's products. They've actually helped us integrate their products with other more consumer touch points. You talked about mobile check-in and things like that. We're more focused on how we can integrate the loyalty program beyond the room. So beyond being enabling the loyalty program to give you currency when you're staying in the hotel, what about when you're not staying in the hotel? So we're now doing a lot of work on creating tech that will enable you to earn and burn Discovery Dollar currency, whether or not you're staying in the hotel. So here I'm in Dubai. We got 15 different brands from GHA in the vicinity of where I am. And I want to go out this evening and I want to spend those 300 Discovery Dollars I was going to spend in Hawaii with Jeff, but there's no direct flight. So I'm going to spend them here in one of our restaurants this evening. So what tech could I use to use my Discovery Dollars in one of our restaurants? So we haven't got that fixed yet, but within a few months, in fact, we're getting our CEOs together in Madrid in a couple of months for the launch of H. We're going to be piloting hopefully some tech that, and I tell you, this is convenient. You're sitting at a table, you've had an amazing meal experience, and you just want the bill and go home, right? And it never comes, and you're putting your hand up, and they've forgotten about you because they've got nothing left to serve you. Well, with a QR code now, you can actually pull your bill up onto your phone and pay it straight into the point of sale system, stand up and you walk out. On top of that, what we want to be able to do is say, I want to pay this bill in my Discovery dollars. Bing, paid in my Discovery dollars. Thank you very much. Off you go. And I think that's the sort of tech that is really going to engage customers more, because A, you've given them a reason to engage with you when they're not traveling. B, you've given them a way to use their rewards. And C, you've made it seamless and easy. So I think that's where tech is going in the future. As Jeff said, it's all about cloud. It's all about having that data secure. And it's all about seamless technology at all the different customer touch points. And I think that's what it's all about in the coming years for hotels.
How do I get all my charges direct bill to Glenn's credit card?
Anthony, if you come to Hawaii, we'll make sure we get that taken care of.
Thank
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Anthony, by the way, Hawaii's closed. Can't go there anymore. Gentlemen, any final thoughts before we wrap up with you today? Chris?
Well, I think that the next time we do one of these shows, we should do it in a place ending in I. So you can choose. We go Hawaii, we go Dubai, that's our ends of the world. But you can't go wrong.
He goes to Hawaii, I go to Dubai. We'll do it in 2 different places.
But yes,
I like that.
It's time you came and saw us over here.
But how about we both go to Hawaii and then we both go to Dubai instead? I've never been to Dubai. Really a buck.
You know, it's a shame because when people say to me, like most people, like, have you been here? Yes. Been everywhere, right? Have you been to Dubai? No. It's like, oh my God. It's like, I'm so embarrassed.
That's how I felt about China. Because for years it'd be like everyone I knew had been China because they're all vendors, they'll have factories there, and I couldn't talk to them about it. But
I had 2 TV shows booked in Dubai, and I've had probably 10 speeches booked in Dubai. Every single one canceled. Same thing with Portugal. We had shows in Portugal, and we had keynote speeches. We had a whole event in Portugal, 3-day event. So Portugal and Dubai, I got to get there this year.
That's funny. I spoke to a friend in Portugal just this morning. How cool is that? Jeff?
It's really interesting to our friend. Go ahead.
Well, you know, people that want to use me. What are you gonna do? I call them friends, but whatever. Jeff?
So thanks, Glenn, for having us on. I think, you know, what I'm seeing right now is the recovery and the resurgence of travel starting again, which is awesome. When you think about Hawaii and some of the destinations, even Thailand, for example, April 1st, Thailand opens back up without a lot of restrictions. So a lot of the restrictions that have been out there have prevented a lot of the travel. When you think about international borders being closed, the majority of that is now either gone or in the process of being released. Right. So the big question of the day is, when are we going to be back to 2019 levels? I think you see that on
all the time,
show, every magazine, whatever it is. I don't know that any of us really know, but I think the second half of 2022 is going to be really good for the industry. This isn't a leisure comment. There's business travel coming back. We're starting to see some of the group and MICE business coming back. Right. So I'm really encouraged about the second half of 2022. And I think 2023 is going to be a great year for all of us. I think we've all been humbled to some degree over what happened. There was no playbook for any of us to be able to get through the pandemic. I think we've all learned to really take care of our people. Our people are incredibly important to all of us. And we all learned how to do business a little bit differently. I literally sent a note out. You know, we've got a corporate office here with 100 people. And I sent a note out last week. We have the mask restriction that has been released now, effective this past Saturday. And one of the things I had to say was all doors to offices need to be open. And you think about it, we all sit here on these Zoom calls all day long, and our doors closed all day long. That's not us. That's not hospitality. It's not the way our industry works. And it's not the way you create culture. And, you know, our people are so important to us. Everybody needs to open their doors. They need to walk around. They need to get out there and be a part of what happens in hospitality again. So I'm really excited about the rest of this year and what's going to happen. I love our industry. I think, you know, we've got an industry that's all full of spirit and you know, hospitality in its soul. And I think that 2022 is going to be the launch into an awesome 2023.
And Glenn, the good news
Yeah,
is
I
we go to
agree.
Hawaii or Dubai, we can wear our shorts with our jacket just like we do at home.
That's true. I'm really looking forward to trading in my my sweatpants that I have over here for shorts. We're just getting to that time of year, but today is like 35 degrees out. All right, but Jeff, anecdotally, I'm seeing business travel pick up, and I'm just basing this on my positioning on Delta flights on the upgrade list, right? Over the last few months, my name has been regularly going down, down, down. So instead of getting
more about your reputation, Glenn.
that has always been in the
That
toilet.
could be the problem.
Yeah, but like instead of being like number 1, 2, 3, I'm down to like 14, 18. So that's telling me that a lot of people that were big travelers are back now. Last question I have for you, Jeff. You got me thinking, what's the number one big opportunity that you're seeing in the future to get people to love Outrigger even more?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that our company is all about and always has been is, the celebrating the environment that we're in, or the culture that we're in, no matter where it is, whether you're in Thailand or Hawaii or in the Maldives. It's, we think through what happened on this land. What's the history of this particular place, and how do we weave that storytelling into our properties? When you think about a leisure destination now, the traveler, I think, is looking for something that's an experience. And we hear about this a lot, but if you can land that experience with authenticity in a market that you're in, it resonates with the consumer. So for an example, we have a guy named Ethan Estes who did an art piece in our Outrigger Reef that we just renovated. And Ethan did this, it's about 10 feet wide by 8 feet high rope art. So he pulled all this rope and netting out of the ocean that we all hear about that harms, the turtles and the sea life. And he created this art piece that is literally right when you walk into this property. And then there's next to it, there's a QR code that Chris mentioned earlier. And there's a big story about that particular piece of art. We have that throughout the entire property. So when you walk through this property, it's almost museum-like. It's a story about Hawaii, and you can not only come and experience the beach and the other things of Hawaii, you can come in and feel the Hawaiian culture, which we love. We want to celebrate what has happened in Hawaii over the years, or in Thailand, in Phuket, or in the Maldives, with all of our storytelling. So I think you're going to see more of that as we move into the future, that it's going to be when you walk into these resort destinations, do you walk into something that is an experience, not just a property or
I agree. Chris, I'd love to have you respond to what he said. I don't want to just leave you hanging there.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think the two things we've learned from the from the last 2 years of the pandemic is collaboration is key. I mean, when you're a small organization and you're sitting there on your own wondering what the heck's happening to your industry, it's great to be part of a bigger organization like the Alliance. And I've certainly benefited. And I think all of the people in our different brands around the world have benefited from being able to share the knowledge, share the pain a little bit together, talk about best practice. As Jeff said, we've had to learn as we go. None of us have ever experienced, however old we are, none of us have really ever experienced anything like this in the industry. And I think the other thing that I really believe is I think we're entering the era of the leisure traveler. I think we were pre-COVID anyway. You were talking about getting that upgrade to business class or first class. I think that seat at the front of the plane is going to be occupied by leisure travelers more and more in the future. The idea of business class as such will become an anachronism. And what do leisure travelers really want? They want new experiences. And so I think the era of the independent brand, these new brands that offer experiences that are very different. And what I love about the Outrigger brand is it represents so much about what Hawaii is. I think it dates back to the 1930s. It was family owned. It was family created. So many people who have been born in that beautiful part of the world are part of the Outrigger family. And that's so true. If you take the Lila brand in India, or you take the Lungano brand in Italy, these are family owned businesses for years that know more about the culture and the way the people of the country live than any international brand is ever going to be able to create by planting a flag in that country. And I think the leisure traveler of the future that we're going to see more and more emerging as the luxury customer that we're all chasing after is going to be looking for that sort of experience. So I'd like to think we're going to be well placed, and I hope the collaboration, that we've had over the last couple of years will stand us in good stead to put the Alliance brands in front of more and more customers as we hit the recovery road. And as Jeff said, I think we're well on that road already.
Beautiful. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We can't wait to have you return soon enough. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Take care. That was fun, Anthony, and you're on mute.
We're going to see them in Hawaii and Dubai.
Yeah, which would be great if we could actually pull that stuff off. But I'm definitely going to get my butt to Hawaii. I haven't had a vacation since August of 2019, and I'm burnt out. I need some R&R. But you know how I am. I will do live shows there because can't not do broadcast.
Well, we're going to Hawaii together. We're doing a podcast together, so make sure that
Yep.
that happens, Glenn. That is your
I
job.
promise you. For real this time. All right.
For real?
Also, speaking about things that are very real, our audio podcast. Make sure you download that. Go to applepodcast.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, wherever you want to go. We are there. Of course, you want to reach out to us personally. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. Any final pearls of wisdom, Anthony?
Sir, no, sir.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on.
Be kind to yourself.
And aloha.
Aloha.